just as a recap, the goal of this series is to get you inside the head of the improvising drummer, right? To get some of that intangible stuff that's really hard to find on the internet or to find anyone talking about or teaching, is the inner experience of improvisation. What's going through someone's head when they're creating in the moment, and what from that can be extracted and become a useful tool, no matter what your level is. So that was a turn the camera on, improvised solo using some material that I've been working on in the practice room. And in that performance, I was trying to make it seem like or feel like a coherent composition, right? I was trying to give it direction. I was trying to make it feel like, for the listener, you're not watching me practice the drums, but you're watching something like a music, something like art, something like a performance with intention, with a beginning, with dynamics, with dynamic change, with an overall contour, and something that eventually ends. So that was much longer than the solo in the previous video in this series. So I'm not going to walk through every single idea, and I wouldn't be able to remember all of the ideas ever, but I can walk through some of the main ones, right? And in this case, the main thing that I was sitting with in this lesson, it was more about excluding. What am I going to limit myself to, sound-wise and material-wise, patterns and content? The first thing you'll notice, I'm playing a stripped-down kit. I happen to be playing a stripped-down kit right now because I was just filming a course for my website, the Swanky Half Swung Grooves course, right? This kind of... I was just filming that kind of stuff. This is the right kit for it, and I was just starting to mess around with it with my other stuff, and felt good, so I flipped the camera on. But that's the first constraint here that I've applied to my drumming, right? I don't have a bunch of crashes. I don't have a bunch of toms. My floor tom basically sounds like a kick drum. So those two things can work together. So I basically have a kick drum, two kick drums, a snare drum, a hi-hat, and a ride. So I'm limited in that way. And on the content side of things, my main focus, limitation-wise, was 1, patience, and 2, limiting myself mainly to essentially like fast drum and bassy, fast type grooves, and specific subsets of vocabulary that I've been working on. On the patience front, this was a big thing, right? When I'm in this, I happen to know that when I'm exploring this subset of vocabulary, there's only so much building I can do as far as, personally with my vocabulary, as far as how far I can take it, right? If I'm playing a really busy, jam-packed groove, that, personally, I'm near the limits of how far I can build that, right? Because I'm playing all the notes, I'm playing really intense stuff. So my idea, what I had in my head as I was going through this, is be patient with taking next steps. Right? So don't flip to the ride until you're really ready to change the color of the scene here, until you're really ready to say something different. And that was a conscious thought to kind of like, okay, and if I go there, maybe I don't bring the exact same material I was doing over here. Maybe I give it space, and maybe I just play some time as a contrast to what's going on over here. And then also back on the patience front, there are a few different groove modes, you could say, right? This is one of the creative tools that I'm always keeping in mind, that's always going through my mind. And it's covered in, there's a free drum clinic on YouTube called, that I did recently. It's an hour-long, full-length drum clinic called 3 Tools for Better Drum Soloing. One of the tools is groove modes. And these are basically rules that you set for yourself that you have to follow in your improvisation. This is another limiting factor. You'll find a lot of what's going on in my mind when I'm improvising is exclusion, because I don't want to fall into the trap of playing all of my chops all at once, everything, and then I've got nothing left. So in this case, the couple subsets that I was working on, one of them is like where there's a timekeeper here, and the kick and snare are responsible for all the melodic material, right? And there's no backbeat necessarily. Sometimes I have an adaptation of that groove mode where there is a backbeat. A third third groove mode was built of certain like quick hat and snare vocabulary that I've been working on, right? This might seem like a ton of like sort of infinite amount of vocabulary. That's part of my trick here. I'm disguising a limited amount of vocabulary to make it, and adding enough variation orchestration-wise, accent-wise, placement-wise, to make it seem infinite. But that is all a very tidy subset of vocabulary in my mind. So now I have 3 groove modes that I've defined. I've got timekeeper right hand with a backbeat and kick and snares doing the melody. I've got timekeeper, no backbeat, kick and snares doing the melody. And then I've got this really busy stuff. And I was consciously, this is the benefit of groove modes. This is the creative utility of them. Moving between them adds structure automatically to what you're doing. And it also adds contrast. It adds tension and release. This really busy stuff, that has a certain vibe, super high energy, right? The other, you flip to the other side, it's easier for me to add more space there, right? So it's kind of a breath, it's kind of a release compared to the tension. And it also, I find myself playing different melodies when I have the space to just, boom, I can hit a single note, boom, boom, ba. So melodically, I'm thinking differently when I'm in that groove mode. So there's contrast, there's difference built into the groove modes, and I'm moving between them. And honestly, those couple groove modes carried me through most of that solo. Even when I flipped to the ride, I know for a while, I remember I was just playing. And in that moment, right, I'm basically doing the timekeeper with no backbeat, but now I'm on the ride, and I've chilled it out a little bit. And that's where, again, a little window into my mind is that's where I'm consciously bringing in a couple specific, super simple patterns that I've just been practicing, right? One of them is literally just working that into grooves. That kind of thing. And the other is just fast, like left hand stuff, right? So you're so in that moment, you basically saw me doing an exercise. You basically saw me doing a creative exercise, which is where I've set constraints. This is what I would literally be doing in the practice room. I am in the practice room, but when I was practicing, doing that, and just playing left-hand melodies and melodic chunks, and trying to find ones that are tricky for me, trying to push myself, what sounds cool, what doesn't sound cool, so that when I play a solo, like I just did, it's there and I can use the stuff, and I can just kind of turn it on, right? And then occasionally, oh, what's that other idea? Right, and then I think, my memory is a little sketchy for the end of that solo, but I think it ended with bringing some of that drum and bass, that like constant flow stuff back over to the right hand, making it into a beat, and ebbing and flowing between now ride versions of those groove modes. One where the right hand is involved in the melody making, where there's a lot going on, and then one where the right hand chills out and goes back to just keeping time. And then introduce like a kick drum that's playing doom, 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 and then triplets doom, 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 8 notes doom, 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 doom. And then it would have been really nice, if I had done the end correctly, like I was thinking about it. Right, so I'm thinking of like, okay, I know the end is coming, right? I'd like to close the solo soon. And I had the 8th notes going here, it was really nice. Right, a little creative tool there that I didn't really execute well in the actual solo, but you've got 3 elements going, take one out at a time. The ride's gone, but the stuff's doing the same stuff. Left hand's still just improvising melodies, kick drum's playing nice 8th notes, take the 8th notes out, all by itself, left hand. right? So adding elements, right? This is on the Web of Intent, which is another creative tool of mine. There's a course on my website about that if you want to get into it. But one of the continuums that you can explore is one instrument, all the instruments. So along that spectrum, this is one creative prompt that you can use is, okay, well, I'm playing some stuff right now. I'm in the middle of some stuff. I don't want it to get old. What direction could I move? I could add instruments to add new sounds. I could remove instruments. I could move the other direction. In this case, I happen to be moving toward the direction of one instrument. By playing 3 instruments, boom, 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 maybe even a left foot. There's 4 instruments. Take that out, take that out, take that out, and what's left, or take that out. What's left is a snare drum. And you could go the opposite direction. But that, I'll stop myself there before I get too carried away. That's a little rundown of some of the main ideas that were going through my head when I was just improvising that solo. If you're looking for more of this type of stuff, or if you're interested in building the physical, the coordination, the vocabulary, the more technical side of what was just going on, stop by JP Bouvet Method. That's where I have a bunch of courses where I teach all of my best ideas. All of my best teaching is encapsulated in that course because I can really take my time and we can really take our time as students and work through courses one step at a time. It's basically a systematic approach to developing improvisational freedom on the drums. If that sounds like something you're interested in, slide over there, check it out. Shoot me an email, shoot me a message if you got any questions. I'll see you in the next episode of Drum Solo Mastery. Have a good day.